Boxing has been a huge part of American culture and has been the central focus of some of cinema's best works, including Fat City by John Huston, Rocky by John G. Avildsen, and of course Raging Bull by Martin Scorsese. I'm a huge boxing fan. In 2001, when Ali was set to be released in theaters, I couldn't wait to see my favorite filmmaker, Michael Mann, direct a biographical movie on one of my sporting heroes. The opening of Michael Mann's Ali is one of the greatest examples of cinematic craftsmanship. Without the use of voiceover, Michael Mann displays a celebration of African American culture, sport, and music, with an incredible recreation of the song Bring It Home to Me from Sam Cooke's live show at the Harlem Square Club in 1963. It cuts from Ali training in the gym, from hitting a speedball to skipping jump rope, and finally to sparring. It is layered with important events from Muhammad Ali's past. Will Smith spent a year in a professional boxing camp dedicated to transforming himself to emulate the look and movements of Muhammad Ali. The result was an incredible performance of the charismatic phenomenon that is Muhammad Ali, a boxer with incredible speed, footwork, and defense who during his time became a symbol for human rights, religion, race. Ali stood against the American government and of course fought against some of the toughest fighters who ever set foot in the ring. What makes a boxer great is their level of opposition, and Ali fought during a time of some of the most fearsome fighters in heavyweight history. The film zeroes in on Sonny Liston, played by WBO champion Michael Bennett, Joe Frazier, played by the legendary boxer James Toney, and George Foreman, played by former pro boxer Charles Shuford. The film also has Ali's fights against Quarry and Terrell, but only briefly. The boxing scenes in this film are really incredible. They are both about the physicality of the fight and the strategy. They are also about the emotion. Like as Sonny Liston is losing the match, there are shots of Liston where he seems to realize he cannot hit Ali, and Ali can just simply hit him at will. With Joe Frazier, it is about the effects of the layoff from boxing that Muhammad Ali had when he was banned and, for not going to Vietnam and everything like that. The fight had huge effects on Ali, and Ali's youth and footwork were beginning to fade. And finally, George Foreman, a brilliant fight that pushed Ali to grind the fight out into a battle of endurance. This was Michael Mann's first venture into digital filmmaking, and Ali is a multimedia effort utilizing traditional 35mm film and HD digital video. He used digital video to highlight the night scene, showing especially the night sky in a different kind of way, which created a huge sense of mood and immediacy. Michael Mann would of course employ the same multimedia technique for Collateral, and then of course move to full HD video from Miami Vice onwards. In Ali, he used all kinds of cameras to highlight the emotionality of the film. The fight scenes, he used all kinds of cameras to throw the viewers into the actual combat of the boxing matches and to project some key emotional scenes with a sense of immediacy. The most incredible parts of Ali for me are the sequences that seemed entirely improvised. I know from watching the behind the scenes of the DVD that Will Smith and a lot of the cast were always in character even off camera. So he would riff with many of the cast for hours, especially Jon Voight, who also has an incredible transformation as Howard Cosell. There are sequences where Muhammad Ali is yelling at the press, telling them that he will beat George Foreman, and there is a pause, like a huge wave of disbelief falls over the crowd, and it almost feels like they pity him. These scenes of Ali and the press is where I think Will Smith fully captures Muhammad Ali, and they are absolutely magical to watch. I laugh and cry every time I see these scenes. The whole room seems to be populated with real people, full of backstory and strong direction from Michael Mann. It seems to have a level of authenticity that transcends the movie itself. All the scenes between Will Smith and Jon Voight were spectacular. The humor they have between them just makes me smile every time.
Exactly right.
Wouldn't nobody in this room right now, look at all these cameras all over the place, people taking pictures, writing down everything I say. And when they look it up and when they read it in their newspapers and they write it down, folks is looking at it, it's gonna say Muhammad Ali and some strange white man.
One of my favorite scenes of the film is the scene where Angelo Dundee, Muhammad Ali's trainer, asks Don King a question, and Don King replies coldly that he isn't talking to him, and Muhammad Ali snaps, telling him never to talk to Angelo like that. He stood up to an extremely snobby gesture from Don King. It makes me go, wow, like every time I see it. There are two cuts of the film, a director's cut and a theatrical cut. The director's cut has not been released on Blu-ray and it may be a bit hard to find. I strongly urge you to check it out if you haven't. The director's cut has more of an emphasis on the CIA and other government agencies that are in the background, as well as including some interesting characters from Ali's entourage. The director's cut also includes Ali Frazier too. There are some flaws with this movie, however. I don't think it's an absolutely perfect film. I hated the voiceover in this movie. There are some moments where we hear Muhammad Ali's thoughts. Sometimes it's repeated verbally as well. Some of them are very difficult to hear. They really take me out of the movie. I thought it was something the producers forced onto Michael Mann when I saw this movie at the theaters. But when I got the director's cut, I was really shocked to see the voiceover was still there. It's even in the screenplay. It feels like Michael Mann wasn't confident in those scenes and had to emphasize moments with the voiceover. Personally, I think it would have been absolutely fine without it. I find it really distracting, taking me out of the movie. I also felt George Foreman wasn't foreshadowed enough. The movie does show the fight between George Foreman and Joe Frazier, but it's never mentioned that George Foreman destroyed Joe Frazier in 2 rounds. So a viewer could just interpret that the knockout occurred after a long and brutal fight. I do like, however, how we experience that fight from Ali's perspective, like Ali was just at home watching it on TV. The only foreshadowing we got was George Foreman's infamous punching of the heavy bag, which was amazing, but I didn't feel it was enough. In most martial arts movies, the final fight of the movie is against the hero's toughest opponent, usually a villain that has been built up throughout the film as invincible. The final fight of the movie, the Rumble in the Jungle, was incredibly staged and shot, but I think it could have been stronger had they emphasized the power of George Foreman simply by showing more of how easily he destroyed Muhammad Ali's toughest opponents. Incredibly, by the way, George Foreman came back in the 90s, nearly at the age of 50, and knocked out the heavyweight champion and won the title again. I think he knocked out Michael Moore. It just shows you how tough Ali's generation was. I really love the movie Ali. In fact, I think it's one of the top 3 or 4 films of that 2000 decade, the others being City of God, Pan's Labyrinth, and Downfall. This is an incredibly crafted film by one of the best directors of our time, with an incredible central performance by Will Smith. And I think the whole cast was incredibly fantastic. Muhammad Ali was one of the greatest sporting figures in history. His incredible boxing abilities in the ring is only matched by his extraordinary charisma and defiance he showed the world during important times of world history. In the scene where Ali runs through the streets of Africa with the African people, he sees the African culture told in murals. The murals showed Muhammad Ali fighting off the malaria-ridden mosquitoes and fighting armies and tanks. As Michael Mann said in the audio commentary, for this one moment, Muhammad Ali's victory over George Foreman was a victory of the powerless overcoming the powerful. Although the victory was not going to last, that doesn't detract from the devotion of the spirit. If you were there then, Ali was all of us, and all of us were with Ali.